There's a number of factors. I think we as humans have modified the environments quite a bit, and that has affected species diversity. So the amount of chemicals and pollutants we put in the environment is one factor. The loss of habitat, so the reduction of the space where the animals can live, or the plants can live, affects them and their resources available for them to survive and reproduce and continue on. The introduction of predators or feral species that could affect their normal life cycle. So whether it be a behavioural change, sometimes you find that an animal can detect a predator through odours and scents and things like that, and so it will change its behaviour. Maybe it won't try and reproduce because of those predators in the area. So there's a number of factors that are leading, I think, to decreased biodiversity in certain areas. Obviously there's bigger picture questions such as climate change, and that is obviously a whole globe effect rather than something specific like predators or pollution, which is maybe more site specific. So anyway, I think there's a range of factors, and it's not just one of those. Generally, it's
related to, right.
Definitely. I mean, there's ways we can improve the environment. So how we live, as you said. So we don't maybe throw litter. We don't litter, and we don't release things into the drain or the stormwater system. That's going to help definitely. There's other things. So we've got national parks, and they're there to protect species. So having adequate reserve systems, park reserve systems, is important, because that locks away large chunks of land which are in natural condition, and so you can't really look at a species by itself. You've got to look around at its habitat as well and the species around it. So to protect species and to maintain or stop loss. And then there's an important role that even zoos play, zoological parks and gardens, in terms of breeding species that have become low in number. So like threatened and endangered species, like the panda, for instance. By having a captive breeding program, we are, I suppose, potentially assisting that species to survive or to maintain. So there's a number of ways. So yes, it's not all doom and gloom. And I think it's something that we can do, that like the general populace can do. As I said, the way we live or the way we dispose of our waste is important. And then there's the broader programs that governments run and organisations run. So there's kind of a dual process. Yes, there will be changes. So anytime you directly interfere with a species and modify it, that can have an impact on the survival of that species. It might be for the better, it might be for the worse, not necessarily for that species. And species can escape, or things can happen that allow that species to maybe, and we see that with weeds, plant species that are unwanted, that they escape. We culture and grow plants in our gardens, and so, but because their seed is dispersed through whatever means, they move into an area and can take over an area. So escape of modified species does occur now. Now, is that going to affect? Yes, it's going to affect other species in that local area where they've escaped to potentially, but on a broader scale, yeah. At the moment, we've got our national parks, which are protected areas.
And they also sort of the human management, right?
But that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So they are still managed in a way. So they're not. There are a few areas that don't have very little human management to them, and they're kind of classed as wilderness areas. Where there's very few people, even the parks managers don't get there. And it's said that they're probably in a better condition, maybe, than a national park that is managed and allows people to come in and walk and recreate in that area. I think anytime you have humans involved, we are going to impose an influence on that area. We are providing our thoughts on how best to maintain or manage that, rightly or wrongly, and obviously, park managers manage it how they think best at the time, what the current thinking and knowledge is. But that's always evolving itself, isn't it? So, how parks were managed 30 years ago or 50 years ago is totally different to how parks are managed today. Just because of the science has advanced and our knowledge of species and how they interact with other species and the environment. And so that means that the management system has also changed, which is good. What do you mean by artificial protection? Like something that doesn't occur normally?
Yeah, sort of.
So some of the things I talked about, whether like a program of captured breeding,
or something like that. To help people to protect the animal.
So can that occur? Yes. So I think
just give them some specific area to activity or.
Yes, and that happens in the marine environments. So there's marine parks. So the Great Barrier Reef, that's zoned. So and there's marine parks along the New South Wales coast as well, and they have zoning, which means that you can do certain things in certain areas. So you can fish and swim in certain areas, but other areas you can't. You either can't fish, maybe you can swim, and then in other areas they're totally exclusion zones. So you're not even allowed in those areas.
In the Great Barrier Reef?
Yes, as an example, and so there's areas that are exclusion zones, and that's to try and protect maybe a threatened species or wanting to regenerate an area so it comes back after a cyclone or some other damage. So yes, it has worked, and it is working in certain areas. But you need a policing system. So with the marine park rangers, for instance, have to go around and they fine people if they're doing the wrong thing in a zone where they're not supposed to be.